here tonight carrying the weight of a memory, a name, a face that you once believed was the very axis upon which your heart turned. You told yourself you loved them. You whispered it in the silence of your own loneliness. You repeated it as though every echo would confirm it to be true. Yet in the hidden chambers of the psyche, where shadows are not banished but multiply, the truth is far more unsettling. You did not love them. You loved the illusion that in their eyes you mattered. What you loved was not their essence, but the reflection of your own hunger cast upon them. They became the stage upon which your forgotten child, your wounded anima or animus, performed its desperate play. Love, in its archetypal form, is never merely about the other. It is always about the mirror it holds before us. The beloved is not only a person, but a symbol, an image saturated with the projections of our unconscious. What you called love may have been no more than a fierce attempt of the psyche to heal itself by attaching to another being who seemed to promise salvation, a recognition, completion. But in reality, you were chasing an archetype, a phantom born of your own, unmet longing. I have seen countless men and women in my practice who came with broken hearts, swearing they had lost the only love of their lives. They sat with trembling hands, their voices heavy with despair, insisting that without the other they were nothing. But when we descend into the dream work, when we trace the images that rise from the unconscious, a different picture unfolds. The beloved becomes the father who never saw them, the mother who withheld her touch, the early wound that shaped the soul's trajectory. The other person, flesh and blood, with flaws and shadows of their own, was never fully perceived. They were seen only through the veil of projection. Do you see how dangerous this is? To imagine you loved them, when in truth you loved the fantasy that through them you might finally matter. It is not them you are grieving, but the crumbling of your own illusion. And the psyche, when stripped of illusion, trembles, because it would rather suffer in delusion than face the abyss of its own solitude. The unconscious operates with symbols. When you met that person, your heart recognized not their individuality, but the archetypal image they carried. Perhaps they bore the face of your anima, that inner feminine who embodies soulfulness, beauty, mystery, or perhaps they carried the mask of the animus, the inner masculine who represents power, logos, the decisive force, and so you mistook them for salvation, because the unconscious whispered, here is your missing half. But beware, the archetypes are not people, they are eternal patterns. When you confuse a person with an archetype, you will inevitably suffer, for no mortal can bear the weight of a god. This is why you felt intoxicated in their presence, not because they were divine, but because they activated the divine image within you. Their glance awakened an ancient memory of being known, of being held, of being significant in the cosmos. It was never about them. It was about the deep well in you that has thirsted since childhood for someone to declare you matter. You are not invisible. You are worthy of love. When this illusion shatters, the heart cries betrayal, but the betrayal was not theirs. It was your own psyche betraying itself by fastening eternity onto a fragile vessel of flesh. You are now left with the shards of a dream, and these shards cut deeply, yet within the blood of these wounds lies the secret to awaken is to see that what you loved was always within you. Consider the dreamer who dreams of a radiant figure approaching across the waters. She awakens and longs for the figure, not realizing it was the projection of her own soul yearning to return home. The same is true for you. You thought you loved them, but you loved the possibility that through them you would escape the terror of your own insignificance. This is the brutal yet liberating truth. No one can give you the assurance that you matter. Not a lover, not a parent, not even the applause of a crowd. For the psyche will always demand more. It is an endless hunger. Only by turning inward, by embracing your shadow, by facing the forgotten child within who screams for recognition, will you find that what you sought in another was already yours. There is a reason ancient myths are filled with stories of seduction, illusion, and the betrayal of appearances. Think of Narcissus, who did not love another but fell into despair, gazing upon his own reflection. He too thought he loved, but what he loved was the illusion of being seen. Or consider the myth of Psyche and Eros, where love could only endure. Once she lit the lamp and saw her lover as he truly was, not as the dream she had imagined. Your story is no different. I invite you now to descend with me into the unconscious, into the chamber where your archetypes dwell. Close your eyes and remember the moment you first felt alive in their presence. Was it their words that enraptured you, or was it the sudden rush of feeling that for once in your life you were no longer invisible? That spark, that exaltation is not proof of love, it is proof of projection. It is your psyche leaping forward to grasp an ancient promise that you matter. And yet the shadow comes. For the very same person who once made you feel infinite eventually makes you feel abandoned, ignored, insignificant once more. Do you see the cycle? They were the savior only as long as they upheld your illusion. When their humanity surfaced, when they failed to reflect the divine image you projected onto them, you felt betrayed. But what betrayed you was not their failing, it was your own unconscious expectation that they carry your God. To awaken from this is painful. The death of an illusion always feels like the death of love itself. You will cry as though your soul is being torn apart. But what is being torn is the veil, and beyond that veil is the real work, to hold your own heart, to whisper to yourself the words you demanded from another: you matter. You are worthy. You are seen. The shadow resists this. It wants you to keep seeking saviors, to repeat the cycle with another face, another body, another illusion. But every time you repeat it, the pain grows sharper until the psyche forces you into confrontation. For individuation, the process of becoming whole cannot occur while you remain enslaved to illusions. You must see the truth. You didn't love them. You loved the illusion that you mattered. And now, freed from that spell, you can finally begin to love yourself in the wholeness of your being. With shadow and light alike, I tell you this not to strip away your memories, but to honor them, for even illusions serve a purpose. Without the wound of illusion, you would never have begun the search for truth. The very pain you feel now is the doorway into the deeper chambers of the soul. Enter it. Do not turn away. You must understand that the psyche does not move in straight lines. It moves in spirals, circling around the same wound until you have the courage to look directly into it. That is why, even after the illusion breaks, you find yourself returning again and again in thought to the one who seemed to hold your soul. You imagine them walking past you on a crowded street. You dream their voice calling your name. You feel the ghost of their presence in empty rooms. Do not mistake this for proof that they are your destiny. It is proof that the wound has not yet been integrated. The psyche, like a great alchemist, keeps stirring the vessel until the substance has transformed. Dreams are perhaps the clearest mirrors of this truth. When I ask my patients to recount their dreams after a heartbreak, it is not uncommon to see the lost beloved appear again and again in symbolic form, sometimes radiant, sometimes cruel, sometimes vanishing into mist. This figure is not the real person, but the archetype still haunting the unconscious. They appear because the psyche insists you complete the work. If you try to silence the dream, the image grows stronger. But if you turn toward it, if you ask it what it wants, you may begin to hear not the voice of the beloved, but the cry of the forgotten child within. For that child is at the root of the illusion. You loved the illusion that you mattered because long ago you were made to feel you did not. Perhaps, as a child, you cried for comfort and were met with silence. Perhaps you achieved and achieved, but no one applauded. Perhaps love in your family was conditional, offered only when you performed, when you pleased, when you suppressed your true self. The child learned, I do not matter unless another confirms it. And so the adult carries this wound into every relationship, searching for someone who will finally look at them with unwavering recognition. But when someone enters your life and touches this wound, it feels like salvation. The psyche says, this is the one, not because they are truly the one, but because they awaken the wound, and with it the fantasy of its healing. You fall not into love, but into necessity. You cling not to the person, but to the hope they will rewrite your story. And yet, no one can rewrite that story, but you. This is why your so-called love felt like obsession, why you could not rest without their presence, why rejection felt like annihilation. You were not loving them. You were fighting for the survival of your inner child. You were demanding from them the recognition that was once denied you, and when they failed to provide it, you collapsed into despair, believing love had betrayed you. But let us speak of illusion in a deeper sense. Illusion is not merely deception. Illusion is the psyche's way of protecting itself from unbearable truths. You could not face the depth of your wound, so you disguised it in the form of love. You made another human being the vessel for your longing. This was not foolishness, it was survival. But survival cannot be the end. To individuate, you must strip away illusion and face the void itself. Do not imagine this as a cold intellectual act. It is a descent, a journey into the underworld of the soul. When Orpheus descended into Hades for his beloved, he was not simply chasing love, he was confronting death itself. The death of his illusion that love could conquer all. And though he lost her, when he turned back, he gained the wisdom that no human bond can replace the soul's confrontation with its own darkness. You too must descend. You too must face the terrifying truth that no one outside of you can give you the certainty that you matter. I know this sounds cruel. The heart craves warmth, not solitude. But I assure you, beyond the solitude, there is a love so profound that no illusion can counterfeit it. It is the love of the self, the archetype of wholeness that resides at the center of your being. When you encounter the self, if you no longer beg another to tell you that you matter, because you feel it radiating from within, but you cannot reach this self as long as you clutch illusions. They must die. The death of illusion is often accompanied by rage. Rage at the other, rage at yourself, rage at God. You ask, why did they deceive me? Why did I allow myself to be deceived? Why does the universe take from me the very thing I most long for? Do not suppress this rage. It is sacred. It is the fire that burns away the false images. Let it roar, but do not let it consume you. Sit with it as an alchemist tends his furnace, watching as the dross melts away and the pure substance begins to emerge. Then comes grief, vast and oceanic. You weep not only for the lost person, but for the years of your life spent chasing shadows, for the child within who has suffered so long without relief. Your tears are holy. They are the baptism into truth. Every tear carries you deeper into the realization that the one you lost was never truly yours to lose, because they were never truly seen. You weep for the illusion, not for the soul of the other. And then, if you dare, you enter silence. In silence, the illusions have no power, because they require noise, distraction, projection. Silence is the void that the psyche fears most, because in it you confront your own existence without witnesses. Yet in silence, if you do not flee, you may hear the voice of the self. It does not speak loudly, it whispers. It says you matter because you are, not because you are loved, not because you are desired, not because you are useful, simply because you exist as a fragment of the eternal. This is what you were truly seeking in the beloved, not their approval, but this primal truth. They were only the mirror, but the mirror cracked, and now you must see yourself directly. This is the journey of individuation, to stop demanding the world carry your illusions, and instead integrate the shadow, embrace the inner child. Bow before the self. Symbols will guide you. Watch your dreams. The beloved may appear as a figure receding into distance. Do not chase them. Instead, ask, what part of me is vanishing? Perhaps you will dream of a child alone in a dark house. Approach the child, hold them, tell them they matter. Or you may dream of water overflowing, flooding your home. This is the unconscious demanding entry. Do not dam it up. Let it wash through you. For every symbol is the psyche's way of guiding you back to the truth. When you finally see the illusion for what it was, you may feel both sorrow and liberation. Sorrow, because you realize you never truly loved them as they were. Liberation, because you are no longer bound to the chains of projection. You can now begin to encounter others as they are flawed, complex, human, without demanding that they prove your worth. Only then can love in its truest form arise. True love does not intoxicate. It does not feel like drowning in fire or vanishing into ecstasy. Those are the signs of projection. True love feels like stillness, like recognition without illusion, like seeing another soul in its wholeness while being rooted in your own. It is not the desperate cry of the child, but the calm embrace of the self. Few ever reach this, because few are willing to let their illusions die. But if you endure the fire, you will find it. So let me tell you once more, you didn't love them. You loved the illusion that in their gaze you mattered. This truth may feel like death, but it is also birth. For only by letting the illusion go can you discover the one relationship that will never abandon you, the relationship with your own soul. When you stand at this threshold between illusion and truth, the psyche trembles. For to release the illusion is to allow the darkness of the unknown to rise. What if you are not loved? What if you are not special? What if you vanish into the abyss of insignificance? These are the questions that haunt the soul in the night hours when no voices come to comfort you. And yet it is here, precisely here, that the deepest transformation begins. The death of illusion always feels like annihilation, but in truth, it is the initiation into individuation. The shadow, which you have so long disowned, comes forward at this point. The shadow is not merely the dark traits you deny: anger, jealousy, desire, selfishness. It is also the unlived life, the power you handed away, the voice that once cried for recognition and was silenced. When you loved the illusion, you projected your unlived self into another person. You handed them the keys to your shadow and begged them to carry it for you. That is why they seemed so radiant, so irresistible. They held a part of you that you had disowned. Do you not see every trait you adored in them was a trait buried in you? Every glance that made you feel alive was your own soul staring back at you. This is the secret of projection. We fall in love, not with others, but with the rejected fragments of ourselves reflected through their form. When they depart, it feels as if they take your soul with them, but in truth they return you to yourself. They leave you not empty, but pregnant with the possibility of reclaiming what you had forgotten. Yet the psyche resists this reclamation. It says, I cannot be whole. I cannot be radiant. I cannot matter on my own. It clings to the illusion, because the illusion is familiar. To step into wholeness is to enter foreign land, and so you may find yourself tempted to return to them, to beg again for the illusion, or to find another vessel upon whom to project. Beware of this cycle. The world is full of faces, and the unconscious will gladly choose a new one to carry your shadow, if you allow it. But you will only repeat the same wound until you face it within. Dreams at this stage often reveal the shadow directly. Perhaps you will dream of a stranger following you in the dark, a figure whose face you cannot see. This is the shadow, demanding your attention. Or perhaps you dream of betrayal, your beloved laughing with another, leaving you behind. This too is the psyche telling you you must not hand your worth to another, for they will always walk away. The dream is not prophecy, but symbol. It points you back to yourself. The individuation process requires that you draw back these projections. This does not mean you stop loving others. It means you stop demanding that they carry the weight of your unconscious. You see them as they are neither saviors nor destroyers, but human beings struggling with their own shadows. And in seeing them clearly, you also begin to see yourself. The path to this clarity is not quick. It is not achieved by intellectual insight alone. It is a lived experience, an inner work of years. You will feel resistance, fear, despair, but you must persist. For every time you endure the pain of withdrawing a projection, you reclaim another fragment of your soul. Every time you whisper to the inner child that they matter, you heal another wound. Slowly, the illusion dissolves, and in its place rises a truth so luminous that no projection can rival it. What is this truth? That love is not something you must seize from another's hands. Love is the natural radiance of the self. When you encounter the self, you feel bathed in significance without needing an external witness. The illusion promised you matter to someone else. The self reveals you matter to existence itself. This shift is the essence of transformation. You may wonder, how does one encounter the self? It comes in symbols, in moments when the veil lifts and you feel part of something vast and eternal. Perhaps in a dream of a radiant figure who embraces you without condition. Perhaps in nature, standing before the sea or beneath the stars, feeling your smallness, yet sensing you belong to the whole. Perhaps in silence, when after long grief you suddenly feel peace descend like dew. The self cannot be summoned by will. It reveals itself when the ego has been stripped of its illusions and stands naked before the mystery. Let me speak now of archetypes, for they are the language of this inner world. The illusion you loved was often carried by the anima or animus, those inner figures who represent soul and spirit. If you are a man, you may have projected your anima onto the beloved, seeing in her the embodiment of all beauty and mystery. If you are a woman, you may have projected your animus, seeing in him the power and wisdom you longed for. But the anima and animus are not meant to remain external. They must be integrated within. When you reclaim them, you no longer search for wholeness outside. For you carry it within. And there is also the shadow archetype appearing in the beloved as the one who wounds you, betrays you, abandons you. You thought them cruel, but they only revealed the cruelty you inflict upon yourself by refusing to see your worth. Their betrayal is the mirror of your own self-betrayal. To integrate the shadow is to stop fighting these reflections and to embrace the truth they carry. Even deeper lies the self. The archetype of totality, to meet the self, is to realize that every illusion, every projection, every heartbreak was guiding you toward this center. You were never truly abandoned because the self was always within you. The beloved was only the mask behind every mask. It is the self calling you home. I recall once a patient who could not release the memory of a lover who had rejected her. She dreamt of him nightly, felt him in every corner of her life. But when we worked through the dreams, we discovered that his image was always accompanied by a child hiding in the shadows, watching silently. It became clear she was not longing for him, but for the child within her who had never been seen. The beloved was merely the carrier of that child's cry. When she embraced the child in her inner work, the dreams of him ceased. She no longer needed him, for she had finally given herself the recognition she had begged from him. So it is with you. The illusion you loved was the disguise of your own soul. And though the shattering feels like death, it is truly the beginning of rebirth. For when the illusion dies, the soul is free to reveal itself in its full radiance, but you must not hurry this process. The ego wishes for quick healing, for a painless escape. The soul demands patience. It will test you with longing, with dreams, with memories. It will tempt you to cling again. But if you hold steady, if you allow the grief to burn without fleeing, you will discover something profound. You will realize you no longer need their gaze to feel alive. You will walk into a room, and though no one turns their head, you will feel significance pulsating from your very being. This is not pride, not arrogance. It is the natural dignity of the self. And then, when you encounter another, you will see them not as a savior, but as a fellow traveler. You will not demand they carry your illusions, nor will you be seduced by theirs. You will meet soul to soul, shadow to shadow, light to light. This is the ground of authentic love. A love that does not consume but sustains, that does not enslave but liberates. So remember, every illusion that shatters is a doorway. Every heartbreak is a summons. You thought you lost love, but you lost only the illusion. The love remains, waiting in the depths of your own soul, ready to be discovered when you have the courage to descend, when the psyche has endured the fire of disillusionment, when the projections have been withdrawn and the shadow faced, there comes a silence. Unlike any silence you have known before. It is not the silence of emptiness, nor the silence of absence. It is the silence of wholeness. You find that the desperate noise within the demand to be seen, the terror of being forgotten has softened. It has not vanished entirely, for we are human, and the wound never disappears fully. But it no longer rules you. It no longer drives you to throw yourself against the walls of illusion in search of recognition. In this silence, you begin to sense a presence, subtle yet profound. It is the self, the center of your being, the archetype of wholeness. It does not speak in human words. It speaks in images, in intuitions, in an inner radiance that requires no audience. For the first time, you begin to understand what it means to matter without reference to another's gaze. You exist, and in your existence alone, you bear the dignity of the cosmos. At first, this realization frightens you, for if you matter simply by existing, then what becomes of the dramas you played upon the stage of love? What becomes of the endless searching for validation? You may feel grief, as though you have lost not only the beloved, but the very fabric of meaning that once bound your life. But soon you realize that this grief is the loosening of old chains. The self demands that you live not as a beggar of significance, but as a participant in the eternal dance of being. Consider the symbol of the mandala, which arises spontaneously in dreams and visions. The mandala is the circle, the image of wholeness, the self revealed. When you encounter the mandala in your inner world, it signals that your psyche is attempting to balance itself, to bring the fragments into unity. The beloved was only one fragment, carrying the projection of your longing. But the mandala reveals that every fragment belongs within the circle of your being. You no longer need to cling to one face, one illusion. You are the circle itself. This does not mean you retreat from the world or forsake human love. On the contrary, it means you are finally capable of love in its purest form. For when you meet another without the burden of projection, you can see them as they are, shadow and light, beauty and flaw, a fellow traveler upon the road of individuation. You do not demand that they rescue you, nor do you allow yourself to be consumed by their illusions. You meet them soul to soul, and in that meeting, something sacred arises, not dependency, not intoxication, but communion. You may notice that such love is quieter than the love you once knew. It does not erupt like fire, nor does it intoxicate like wine. It moves like water, deep and steady, flowing without end. You may even mistake it at first for something less, because it lacks the fever of illusion, but in time you will see that it is more, infinitely more, for it does not fade when the projection dissolves. It endures because it is rooted not in illusion but in truth. And now, when you recall the one you thought you loved, you see them differently. You do not despise them, nor do you idolize them. You recognize that they were a vessel, a mirror. They awakened in you the wound, and through that wound you have been led to healing. In this recognition, gratitude arises, not for their perfection, but for their role in your transformation. You no longer cling to them, for you see that what you sought was never theirs to give. It was always yours to discover. But beware, the psyche is cunning, and illusions return in new forms. The shadow does not vanish with a single confrontation. Life will continue to present you with faces, with temptations, to project once more. Each time you fall into projection, do not despair. Recognize it as part of the spiral. Each cycle brings you deeper, closer to the self. The work of individuation is not a single victory, but a lifetime of integration. And so I say again, you didn't love them. You loved the illusion that you mattered. That illusion has shattered, and you stand now at the threshold of truth. Step through it. Do not cling to the rubble. Do not waste your tears on what was never real. Instead, turn inward, hold the child you abandoned, embrace the shadow you feared. Bow before the self that has waited patiently in the depths of your being. For when you do, you will discover a love that no illusion can counterfeit. A love that flows from the very ground of your soul. A love that needs no witness, because it shines from within like a flame that cannot be extinguished. And then, when you walk into the world, you will carry this flame with you. Others may see it and mistake it for magic. They may be drawn to you, seeking the same recognition you once sought, and you will look at them with compassion for, their hunger, their illusions, their pain. You will not exploit it, nor will you be enslaved by it. You will simply stand as a witness, a reminder that wholeness is possible. This is the destiny of those who endure the death of illusion, not to live without love, but to live with love, purified of projection, not to renounce the world, but to walk within it as one who knows the truth, not to escape suffering, but to transmute suffering into wisdom. And so I leave you with this: the illusion has fallen, The truth remains, you did not love them. You loved the illusion that you mattered. But now, free of illusion, you can discover the deeper truth. You do matter, not because of them, not because of anyone, but because you are a living expression of the eternal self. Carry this truth into your days. Let it guide your nights. Let it shape your dreams. And when illusions arise again, as they surely will, greet them not with fear, but with recognition. Smile at them as at old friends who once served you, and then release them, for you no longer need their mask. You have seen the face of your own soul, and in that face, you have found the love you were seeking all along,